we're going to learn about volume. The goals for you today is to be able to say, I can recognize that a solid figure that can be packed without n gaps using unit cubes has a volume of n cubic units. N represents a number, any number, and gaps are like openings where there's no cubic unit or unit cube in it. And we'll talk about what cubic units are here soon. I can measure volumes by counting unit cubes, cubic centimeters, cubic inches, cubic feet, and made up units. So let's see how that's all going to work. Well, first, let's talk about what volume is. So volume is any amount of space that's inside of a container or the actual amount of material in the container. Material could be water, could be rice, could be sand, could be oatmeal, whatever it is that's filling up the inside of a container. Volume has a measurement that we call cubic units, which is also written as units to the third power or units cubed. And here are some examples here at the bottom. Centimeters cubed, which can also be, let me grab a pen here real quick, which can also be written as cubic centimeters. Now I can write out the whole word, which I'm going to do here, or I can write cm for centimeters. Okay. It can be, here's another example, inches cubed, or we could say cubic inches if we write it out in words. Feet cubed, or feet to the third power, and yards cubed. And we're going to talk about why the measurement is written like that here as we get into this a little more. Okay, now let's do a little bit of prior knowledge, things that you remember and you've learned already. So we have a point, and our points are called zero-dimensional shapes. They have no measurements at all because they have no length, no width, or no height. So these are zero-dimensional shapes. One-dimensional shapes are lines, and they measure length. Some examples of measurements, units are called measurement lengths of measurement. The labels we give them are units, if we don't know the name of it. Could be inches, centimeters, feet, yards, kilometers. It could be all of the other linear measurements that I've not mentioned. Now, beginning in third grade, you started learning about two-dimensional shapes. We've covered a lot about two-dimensional shapes this year, but what two-dimensional shapes entail are all of the inside area of a flat shape. And you learn that two-dimensional shapes are measured by doing their side-by-side or their length by their width. And they're written as square units or units squared. We can have other examples like square inches or inches squared, square centimeters or centimeters squared. Oops. Little bump there. We also have square feet or feet squared. There can be all different measurement names to a two-dimensional shape depending on what its measurement is labeled as. Now, for volume, we're going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes. Now, remember, three-dimensional shapes they actually are things that you can hold in your hand. They fill up the inside of your hand. They're not flat, they're not a line, and they're not a point. However, three-dimensional shapes are made up of all three of those. They're made up of points, lines, and two-dimensional shapes. So three-dimensional shapes actually measure length, width, and height, and they're written as cubic units or units cubed, cubic inches or inches cubed, cubic meters or meters cubed. These are just a few examples. But if you don't know the measurement, you're going to call it cubic units. Okay? Now let's move on to how we find the volume of some shapes that have been built with cubic units. So each little block, if you will, is called a cubic unit. Now, if we count this shape, three-dimensional shape here, we see there's 1, 2, 3 cubic units in it. So we would write that as 3 cubic units. So this one here is 3 cubic units. We're calling it cubic units because, that's a U, we don't know the measurement of each of the sides of the cubes. Or we could write 3 units cubed. Either way works. This one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 units cubed, or cubic units. This three-dimensional shape figure is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7 units cubed. Oh, I forgot my S. Okay, sorry about the letters and numbers. They're sometimes hard to do on the computer. Now this red one here, now we're going to get into the tricky ones. This red one, there is one right here behind, there we see this tall tower, if you will, of cubes, and then we see like a layer going behind. So we have to count the one that is behind here, that's in this space. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one is 5 units cubed. That's a UN with the third power. This orange one is very interesting. So I don't see one. I know there's one here under these two that are hanging off the top, and there's one back here, so I got to count those. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bottom, and 2 on the top row, which a total of 6 units cubed, or cubic units. This light blue one is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units cubed. Oops, that should be a U. Units cubed. And then yellow, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Whoa. I went off the little tablet here that I have. 6 units cubed. Now this green one, I've got 4 here. There's 1 on the bottom here under this one on top. So there's 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6 all together. So this one is 6 units cubed. There. Oh, look, that's much better writing for you to see. All right, let's look at these. Now, if you look here at figure A, I see there's 1 tower going here and 1 going here, and I don't see any on the back of it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So figure A is 8 units cubed, or cubic units. Now here is what we call a gap. There are no cubes in this space, so we're not going to count them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one is 8 units cubed. Here's a gap, so I want to make sure that there's no counting of this in here. There's nothing. There's a missing cube here, so I'm not going to count that space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 units cubed, or cubic units. Okay, there's nothing back in this section, so I got 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 units cubed. Isn't this interesting? All of these shapes were made up with 8 cubic units, and they're all in different shapes. It's very interesting. Okay, whoops. Let me grab that and put that back for you. It's a little touchy here. No, it doesn't want to grab. Huh. There we go. Okay, sorry about that little having to make you wait there for a minute. Okay, let's go on to these 3 shapes. So And I grab my pen again. I see there's a gap here, and there's a gap in here, and there's one on the bottom. So I see 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7 units cubed. And we're calling them units because there's no measurement that tells me they're inches or centimeters or yards or feet or kilometers. We have to go by what, if we don't see a measurement, then we just use the basic old units. Okay, so now, I don't know if you noticed this, but this is going back here and there's one on top and there's one hidden underneath there in this bottom row underneath this top one that you can't see. So you've got to count it even if you can't see it. 1, 2, 3, plus the one that's underneath it, 4, then this one on top, which is 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one's 8 units cubed. Now, we have 1, 2, 3 going this way. We have 1, 2, 3, those 3 in the back row. There's one on the bottom here for 4, one on top here for 5, and one out front for 6. So this one is 6 units cubed. Okay. So now that you understand that, I hope you're going to go on into your Google Classroom and find your assignment about volume with cubes. I believe that's what it's called. Measuring with cubes, volume with cubes, I believe it's called. And you're going to complete that. It's a Google slideshow, and there's 2 slides. There's 3 slides. The first slide is the direction, and the other 2 are the worksheets, if you will, with fill-in boxes and gray areas. So you will be typing your answers in the gray. And the one thing that I want you to remember when you do the assignment is all of your answers. If you counted 4 cubes, you need to make sure that you write a label on it. Oh, hold on. Oh no. Sorry. Sorry about this. So if you write a label on something that had 4 cubes in it, you want to make sure that you write a label like either cubic units or, I'm going to make that a C so it doesn't look like an L, or you write 4 units cubed. Whoops, what was I doing? Oh, Miss Finmar, you're so wrong. There should be no little 3 here because you already wrote the word cubic here. Okay, so these are your labels, cubic units or units cubed, for 3-dimensional shapes that you're going to be counting the cubes to find volume. And make sure you put those labels, otherwise you're going to get half of your worksheets incorrect, which will give you 50%, which will have you failing the assignment. So let's get 100%, count all those cubes, and write out your labels for every answer. There we go. Good luck.